For those of you who like Greek mythology and mythology, I'm going to tell the story of Uranus and Cronus, because a lot of, I mean, everything that we get nowadays and all of it, it comes out of mythology. So hearing the stories, I think, is fascinating, because you'll hear so much stuff and be like, wow, that's cool, and that makes sense, and whatever. And like, I'm going to introduce the sickle, and honestly, probably where the idea of the reaper came from and all of that, right? So it's the story of Mother Earth, and it starts like this, really. It's Greek mythology. So in Greek mythology, Mother Earth is Gaia, and she was beautiful, and she smelt beautiful, and she was green and blue, and the sky was Uranus, and the sky twinkled at night and was absolutely beautiful, and Earth would look at sky, and she loved sky, because sky was just, it twinkled at night and it was beautiful during the day, and sky would coincidentally look down on Earth, and he loved Earth as well, and they fell in love with each other. And the very first children that they had were the original Titans. Okay, so the original Titans included 6 males and 6 females. They had sisters, and they took them as their sister wives. But one of the Titans' name was Cronus, and I'm sure many people have heard that name through something or other. But so Cronus was one of the Titans. Now, Mother Earth and Uranus then bore more children, and these children came out like monsters. They were big, giant monsters with, you know, 50 arms and so many eyes, and they weren't pretty, right? So Mother Earth, no matter what, she loved her children. It didn't matter. She loved them. But Uranus was absolutely horrified, because they were just hideous. They didn't look anything like the Titans. They weren't good looking. They were just monsters, you know, with arms and everything. So Uranus threw them underneath the Earth, where it was called Tartarus. And that was underneath the Earth, underneath the ocean, underneath the Earth. So because of this, Mother Earth, Gaia, was mad at Uranus. She hated him because he tossed her kids in prison. So Mother Earth knew that someday one of those Titans is going to grow up big enough to be able to overpower Uranus. So eventually she created this sickle, this massive sickle, out of the best material that she could come up with. And she said, okay, so you guys got to go fight your father, because he locked up your brothers in Tartarus, and I want your brothers back. This is bullshit. So all of the brothers, all the Titans said, no way. I'm afraid of Dad, you know. He's way too powerful. I mean, you're talking about Uranus here. He's way too powerful. So the only son, and he was the youngest son, Cronus, but he was the strongest son, but he was the youngest. He stood up and said, you know what, Mom? Give me that sickle. I got you. And he ended up going up the mountain and battling against his father. And his father knew he was never going to win, because his son was overpowering him. And Uranus ended up giving his son Cronus all of his power, and he left. So now Cronus was the ruler of the universe. This is early Greek mythology. And Mother Earth, Gaia, became really mad at Cronus, because Cronus didn't fulfill his promise, and he did not free his brothers from the prison. He left them there. So what happened then was Mother Earth was mad, but she knew there was nothing anyone could do, because he was the strongest god on Earth at the time, and no one was going to do anything about that. Mother Earth knew that someday what would happen is Cronus's son, one of Cronus's sons, was someday going to be able to overpower her. And Mother Earth was smart. Mother Earth was patient. So she said, I'm going to wait this out. So Cronus and Rhea, who he was married to, every time they would go to have babies, because Cronus was no dummy. He knew that I'm gonna have a baby, and this little kid's gonna grow up and kill me. So I can't have the baby. So what did he do as a god, as a massive god in the story? What he did was, every time Rhea would have the child, he would rip the child out of her arms and he would swallow the baby. So Rhea, knowing, after seeing the first couple of her children get swallowed, she realized, oh, I got to do something about the last child. And the last child was Zeus. So Zeus came out, and she wrapped Zeus real quick up in a blanket and stuffed him aside. And then she grabbed a rock that was right next to her that was the same size as Zeus, and she wrapped him up in the same blanket, and she gave it to Cronus, and Cronus threw it in his mouth real fast and swallowed it. And he had no idea that he didn't swallow his son. He swallowed a stone just as a baby. So now Mother Earth helped Rhea get away so that she could then raise Zeus until he was old enough to defend Cronus and eventually become the leader in the leading god in Greek mythology. And that's how that story goes. But I find those stories like super fascinating, because this is where you get, I mean, the next set of gods, Zeus and his brothers, there were 12 of them. So that's where you get the 12 Olympian gods. And those 12 gods are, it's the same as Jesus and his 12 apostles. They are all allegories for the zodiac, the 12 signs of the zodiac, okay? It's all allegorical. I mean, then you have the story of Persephone, who was the daughter of Demeter, the mother of the harvest, okay? And Demeter always had her child Persephone on her lap. We're talking about Virgo the Virgin here, okay? And in so many of these stories, you know, throughout history, you're going to get born of a virgin, born of a virgin. We have so many characters born of a virgin, so many Messiah characters born of a virgin. And so I mean, I really highly recommend people looking into these Greek mythology stories and these old, especially the old poetry, and because you'll just learn so much. It opens up so many doors, you know, to understanding things. I mean, when we talk about Hades, we're talking about, you know, this Hades was the god of Hades, the underworld. And you would go through the river Styx, guided through the river Styx, and you would never, you know, once you went into the underworld, you would never get out. And it was, like, all of these stories are tied into everything that we get today, really. It's just true. I mean, it is. But truly fascinating. And again, if you like this kind of content, and I just have so many different kinds of content because I love so many different things. I mean, I'll do flat earth content. I'll do so much content on frequency and on vibration and on, I mean, I like to consider myself a truther about anything, really. A total smorgasbord of information truther, because then I like law. I like maritime admiralty law and like dry information like that, because that stuff is fascinating, you know? I mean, because the words that we use, the language, the law that we have, it is all banking law and it's maritime law tied to the oceans because of the British East India Company, you know, just taking over the world. And they created these maritime admiralty laws to favor them. And then when we created the United States, they used those same laws, favoring them over us. And they tied it into our social security number. And that's because we're born into water, into our parents' birthing canal. And all court wordage, all court verbs, all court words are water related. When you go to court, you walk through the gate. It's called a water gate. Why? Because when you get in there, you are going to drown. And when you drown, you have to pay bail. You have to bail yourself out. You go to jail, where you have to, what do you have to do? You have to get money. What's that? That's currency. That's liquid currency. And when you get your liquid currency, if you don't have the money, you gotta put your house up for sale. And like all of this, it never ends, okay? I mean, they consider us literally batteries that come out of water because we have water in us. I mean, it just never ends. When we go into the cell, we are placed into a cell, they charge us with battery. I mean, it literally does not ever end, okay? What is money? It's currency, it's liquid. Where, you know, what is a current? Where is a current? It's in a river. Where is a river? It's on the sides of a bank. All right, a river bank. So these words are there for a reason. Don't ever think they're not. Everything is in place for a reason. Every story we've ever been told, every story we've never been told, it's all there for a reason. The words are there for a reason. Start to learn the stories. Start to learn where they come from. Start to learn the words. The word church, what it means. The word church means the word kirk. K-I-R-K-E. It's a Scottish word. The word Kirk goes back to a word Circe, which is a Roman goddess, and that goes back to the word Circe, which is an Egyptian goddess. And the Egyptian goddess used to lure people into her house using enchantment, and she would mysticize you into her house. And then when you got in there, she'd turn you into a farm animal and eat you and live off your corpse. And it's pretty funny to me because church has been causing wars and turning men into animals for a long time. So isn't that weird? But again, I love you all, and this is of course for entertainment purposes only. But hit that button.